Erin Caldwell vanished without a trace. Luca Marston died with secrets in his blood, and a faceless figure known only as Sentinel pulled strings from the shadows. Operation Soteria Shield wasn't just a cover-up. It was a silent war buried inside our own systems, and the truth was never meant to survive. In September 2018, Erin Caldwell, a soft-spoken IT manager at a small federal subcontracting firm, vanished without a trace. Her quiet life in a Virginia suburb had never drawn attention. She was known by neighbors as friendly but private, a routine-driven woman who rarely strayed from her schedule. When she failed to show up for work on a Monday morning and didn't answer calls, her employer sent someone to check on her. The front door was locked from the inside. Inside the home, nothing appeared stolen or broken. Her laptop was open on the desk. A half-packed suitcase sat beside her bed, and dinner was still warm on the stove. Everything was in place except for Erin. 3 days later, police located her abandoned sedan deep in a remote forest reserve, nearly 40 miles from her home. There were no fingerprints besides hers, no signs of struggle or forced entry, and no blood. The only item of interest was a small USB drive hidden beneath the driver's floor mat. Strangely, her government-issued ID badge had been left neatly on the passenger seat. It was as if she wanted someone to find it. Federal agents were called in once the contents of the USB were examined. It contained fragmented files referencing a classified project labeled Soteria Shield. The blueprints, though incomplete, hinted at a sophisticated network surveillance system capable of deep infiltration into secure government and private infrastructures. The revelation stunned investigators. Erin didn't have the clearance or job description that matched access to such information. She was a mid-level contractor with no ties to defense intelligence or black ops projects. Initial theories ranged from espionage to whistleblowing, but her bank accounts were untouched. Her passport was still at home, and no travel bookings had been made. Her digital footprint stopped the night she disappeared. A deeper background check showed no criminal history, no mental health red flags, and no known associations with activist groups or foreign interests. The case quickly escalated beyond local authorities. Multiple agencies launched inquiries, but every lead hit a wall. Those who accessed the Soteria files reported unusual technical anomalies, vanishing logs, system errors, unexplained shutdowns. Erin's name was never publicly listed as a missing person. Quietly, the case was sealed. Internally, it was classified under a new heading, Operation Soteria Shield. The files were removed from standard databases. To outsiders, it was as if Erin Caldwell had never existed. The investigation into Erin Caldwell's disappearance stagnated until an unrelated financial audit uncovered something unusual. Terranova Metrics, a minor defense analytics firm, came under scrutiny for irregular spending. Among the flagged transactions was a pattern of low-value payments sent overseas, routed through complex layers of shell companies and offshore accounts. The person at the center of these transactions was Luca Marston, an unremarkable accountant with over a decade of loyal service. On the surface, he appeared harmless: no debts, no criminal record, no travel beyond company-approved trips. But hidden within his secure work terminal were encrypted files and access logs that told a different story. Luca had been communicating with a hidden user through an encrypted dark web platform. The username Sentinel appeared repeatedly in the chat metadata. Investigators soon connected that alias to prior cyber breaches into federal infrastructure, dating back as early as 2012. None of those intrusions had ever been traced to a source, and no physical evidence had been left behind. Now, for the first time, there was a trail. One of the financial transfers made by Luca matched precisely the timestamp of Erin Caldwell's last known activity. The amount 14,206 was too specific to be random. Investigators theorized that Luca had funded or facilitated her disappearance, either knowingly or under coercion. The theory gained traction when they discovered he had been granted temporary network access to systems outside of his role, systems tied to the archive framework of Soteria Shield. Before agents could bring Luca in for formal questioning, tragedy struck. He collapsed in a parking garage and was pronounced dead within minutes. The initial report cited cardiac arrest, but an independent autopsy commissioned in secret revealed a rare neurotoxin in his bloodstream engineered to mimic natural death and leave no trace in standard postmortem screenings. It was a clear message. Further digital tracing of Luca's activity led to more dead ends. Files he had accessed were either corrupted or wiped clean. Every message with Sentinel was gone. His home computer had been destroyed by a sudden power surge that fried the motherboard, a highly unlikely event without external interference. What began as a mysterious disappearance had now turned into a deliberate cover-up. Someone was erasing the breadcrumbs, silencing anyone who got too close. The Soteria Shield files weren't just sensitive, they were dangerous, and those connected to them were being eliminated with chilling precision. As the investigation widened, federal cybersecurity teams began identifying coordinated breaches at 3 privately owned data centers. These facilities were all contracted to store classified backups for low-level military and research programs. On the surface, the attacks didn't seem catastrophic. There was no data theft, no ransom demands, and no signs of typical hacking behavior. But closer analysis revealed a more disturbing pattern. Entire archival systems had been wiped clean, not simply deleted, but overridden with randomized code designed to erase any chance of recovery. These were targeted purges, not random acts of cybercrime. Each intrusion had occurred late at night and lasted under 30 minutes. Surveillance footage from one facility showed a figure entering the server room at precisely 13 a.m. The person wore a nondescript black hoodie, moved with clear intent, and carried a compact device emitting a faint blue glow, later identified as a military-grade biometric bypass tool. There were no prints, no facial recognition hits, and no logins recorded at the time of entry. It was as if the intruder had ghosted through the system. Forensics teams combed through the footage frame by frame. On the underside of a tampered workstation, they found something strange, a sticker, no larger than a postage stamp, with a white shield icon and the word Soteria printed in sharp font. Beneath it was a Latin phrase, Silentium servat libertatem, translated, silence preserves freedom. It was the same symbol that had appeared in the corrupted blueprints recovered from Erin Caldwell's USB drive. The coordinated timing of these breaches matched the pattern of deaths and disappearances now connected to the Soteria Shield operation. Each digital wipe came shortly after a suspect died or a lead went cold. It became clear that these data centers weren't just storage hubs. They were hiding something tied directly to the origins of the Soteria Shield project. An internal memo leaked from a compromised server confirmed the worst fears. Soteria Shield had once been intended as a covert monitoring tool for internal threats but had been decommissioned due to legal and ethical concerns. Yet, someone had resurrected it outside of official oversight. The data center attacks were part of a cleanup mission, systematically erasing all traces of its unauthorized reactivation. The silence wasn't accidental. It was by design. And the Shield wasn't just a project. It was now a doctrine. The case took a dramatic turn when an anonymous package arrived at the office of a cybersecurity journalist in Seattle. Inside was a handwritten letter, a flash drive, and a photocopy of a redacted personnel file. The writer claimed to be a former NSA analyst who had been living under a false identity for nearly a decade. He called himself Whistleblower Zero and detailed a hidden evolution of the Soteria Shield program. According to the letter, the program had originally been developed in 2009 as an internal safeguard and AI-powered surveillance net designed to detect rogue activity within the government itself. It was never intended for public use, and ethical reviews deemed it too invasive for deployment. Officially, the project was shelved, but off the books, it continued. The flash drive contained decrypted logs, access credentials, and deployment maps showing Soteria Shield nodes embedded in civilian telecom infrastructure. These weren't passive tools. They could intercept calls, reroute emails, and generate fake digital footprints. More alarming was a series of timestamps that aligned with the dates of multiple high-profile journalist deaths and sudden political resignations, none of which had been tied to foul play. Now, with new data, a pattern emerged. The personnel file belonged to Erin Caldwell. The pages had been marked surveillance flagged internal risk. Notes indicated she had discovered unauthorized system pings linked to Soteria Shield while performing a standard server integrity check. Rather than report the anomaly through her department, she copied the data and attempted to scrub her tracks. But the system had already logged her access. From that moment, she became a target. According to Whistleblower Zero, the Wardens were a small, powerful group operating within various agencies, leveraging Soteria Shield to quietly manage perceived threats, whether internal dissent, media scrutiny, or political rivals. Their power came not from public authority but from control of information itself. They didn't need to silence people violently. They could erase them digitally, severing access to records, freezing bank accounts, and making identities vanish. The journalist who received the package attempted to publish a story. 2 days before it was due to go live, her website was hacked, all backups destroyed, and her credentials locked out. She was found unconscious in her apartment from what was officially called a gas leak. She survived, but the article never made it online. Soteria Shield wasn't history. It was active, and it was watching. Operation Soteria Shield officially launched in early 2020 as a covert effort to dismantle the rogue intelligence network behind the resurrection of the surveillance program. Spearheaded by a small joint task force composed of cybercrime experts, federal investigators, and internal affairs agents, the operation relied heavily on secrecy and compartmentalization. Even those working on the mission were given only partial details. Over several months, the task force quietly tracked digital breadcrumbs, intercepted encrypted communications, and followed paper trails buried beneath years of false documentation. Eventually, 6 individuals were arrested for defense contractors and 2 cybersecurity consultants. Each had indirect ties to classified systems, and all were found to have accessed restricted Soteria Shield infrastructure from secure facilities. Evidence included shell company payouts, unauthorized system modifications, and communications with the known alias Sentinel. The public never learned their names. Their arrests were attributed to unrelated charges, buried in obscure court filings, and never mentioned in the media. Within weeks, all 6 suspects were dead. One died in a staged car accident on a rural highway. Another was found drowned in his apartment bathtub with no sign of forced entry. 2 more suffered sudden medical events. The remaining pair vanished entirely. No bodies were found, only abandoned vehicles. Officially, these deaths were unrelated. Internally, it was accepted that the Wardens were protecting their existence with finality. The task force, now operating under heightened threat protocols, attempted one final maneuver to trace the core server locations of the active Soteria Shield nodes. Using fragments recovered from Erin Caldwell's original drive and metadata from Whistleblower 0, they pinpointed 3 locations across different continents. Before the teams could make a move, all 3 locations went dark within 24 hours. The servers were destroyed in precise, coordinated explosions, likely triggered remotely. It was a scorched earth tactic: no recovery, no evidence, no trail. Erin Caldwell was never found. Her name was scrubbed from official records, her employee files vanished, and her social security number marked inactive due to administrative closure. The whistleblower who helped expose the truth has not resurfaced. Some believe he was taken out. Others think he went deeper underground. To this day, fragments of the Soteria Shield code are still detected in unexpected systems embedded in firmware, pinging through dormant servers, hiding in plain sight. It has become something more than a program. It is now a ghost embedded in the digital world, impossible to kill, and always watching.